for this?
I think it is it's pretty standard, man, but this is a show for the people. We just make shit happen every single day.
Yep, nothing fancy, buddy.
No matter what. So, dude, what's good out in your world? I mean, because Cody and his company, they specialize in produce, refrigerator. You guys just do produce, right?
No, we're heavy in produce, but just food and bev.
Food and bev. I got you.
Yeah.
So, like, dude, what's going on out there in your world right now?
It looks like seasonality is actually kind of starting to return, which is nice to see. You know, anything up in the Pacific Northwest right now is going crazy. So any carriers that are on here, definitely move your trucks up. If you look at your tender rejections for Washington and Idaho, it's going pretty nuts up there. Cali's starting to die down. I think Dean touched on that earlier this week, that Cali outbound's down like 7% year over year.
Oh, dang.
So yeah, so it's getting gnarly, but this is kind of normal this time of year. You know, right after Labor Day through October's kind of slow outside of the Pacific Northwest. So
yeah.
But like I said, good thing is it does look like seasonality is starting to return to kind of normal, which is great. You know, at least it allows you to, kind of budget and predict what's going to happen, hopefully in Q4 and then Q1. But yeah, seeing anything back to normal after what we went through the last couple of years is good news.
Yeah, I was talking to some friends of mine this morning, and they move produce a lot as well, and they were like, "Yeah, we've been moving this lane out of Idaho for all year long, and it literally spiked $800 over week right now." And that's just one thing to take into consideration as you're out there working through the true seasonalities of this freight, right? And then especially when because what is it? Potatoes, onions. What else is going on?
The new potato crop just happened up in Idaho. So, I read some report that it's actually up, I think like 28% year over year. The russets look good. So, size is really good. So they're anticipating a really good retail season this year. And then apples. And then obviously we got trees starting next month, right? Like midway through next month, you'll start to see Oregon and Washington and the Carolinas go pretty crazy for the fresh cut Christmas trees. So that's what's driving the market up there. And then, Yuma transitions in, actually, I believe it's 8 weeks from this week. So 2 months from now.
Yeah.
California is kind of naturally just dying down a little bit, but, definitely move your equipment up north if you guys got it.
Yeah. And just to kind of put that into perspective for people who are listening right now, how long does this typically last up there in the Northwest? I mean, is it damn near through Christmas or very close to that at this point?
After, actually. So, I mean, you can kind of, barring any kind of crazy snowstorms like we had 2 years ago and 3 years ago, you can kind of set your clock to about the second week of January.
Okay. I gotcha. That's good to know, man. I like that. Myron, what's up, dude? Myron Piggy back in there. Good morning to you, my man. Sonny Sharma, and everybody's laughing at your camera, it looks like, here this morning. Cody, but it happens. Freight morning to Thomas. Bill McIntyre, what's up, man? Sonny Sharma says good morning to you, Cody. Josh Hempstead, what's up, brother? And then let me see here. Andrew Teal says potatoes need to get bigger so I can continue to compare to them. I will say this. All right. Maybe this might be an unpopular opinion. Potatoes are the most versatile food on earth. Like, they're the best, hands down. How many different variations? This is just my inner fatty coming out right here. But I mean, dude, we got tater tots, waffle cut fries, crinkle cut fries, regular French fries, shoestring, hash browns, mashed potatoes, baked potato. Dude, the list goes on and on.
And vodka. I mean, you can't forget that.
I wasn't going to go there, Cody, but yeah, I mean, I know where Cody's at. Yeah. Oh, that's funny, man. So, dude, what's been the biggest surprise for you? Because I mean, you've been doing this job for a long time. What's been the biggest surprise for you in the market this year?
I think the biggest surprise is just the lack of capacity exiting at a normal rate, right? Like, so it's a typical 4 to 5 year cycle, depending on what's going to happen, like economically in those 4 to 5 years. And as quickly as rates have dropped the last 18 months, because this kind of started like last February, March-ish, right?
Yeah.
This downturn, there's been a lot of carriers that have been able to hang on, and I'm hoping that just means that they're in good spots financially, and they're able to weather this storm. But that's definitely been the biggest surprise, especially if, with fuel going up. Fuel's going crazy right now.
Yeah, dude, it's up. What is it at right now? Yeah, it's 4.54 a gallon. It's
Yeah.
up like damn near 80 cents a gallon over the last 8 weeks.
Yeah, it's nuts. So you know, everyone's margins are getting compressed. Everybody knows that. Shippers are still, you know, kind of in control, but I think the biggest surprise is just the capacity is still there.
Yeah.
You know, economically, I mean, I don't even know what to say to that. I read the GDP report this morning, and it wasn't fantastic, and the inflation report. So, you know, economically, it is what it is, but the carriers have been holding on. So, you know, kudos to those guys. I still think it's going to change. Probably Q2 next year is probably my prediction, but um, I don't know, man. There's a lot of things. Have you heard any update on this auto strike? Because that's supposed to really impact the market if it goes through, right?
I haven't done a ton of research on the auto strike yet. Um, and a lot of that, like, I'm just not surprised, right? By like, oh, weird, the union striking again. But you know, all things aside, I'll look into that because I think that is that what they were saying, just the brief headline skimming I was doing is it's gonna come and it's gonna come quick. And then it's gonna like really fucking throw a wrench in shit, like a really bad.
Yeah, it definitely slow down our recovery time. I mean, I think all of us are kind of hoping for a decent Q4, but you know, economically, it's not pointing to that. I think it's going to be a muted Q4. You're still going to have your ups and downs, right? Like they're still always going to be a little bit more expensive during, you know, the week of Thanksgiving, the week of Christmas into New Year's. But outside of that, it looks like it's definitely going to be a muted holiday season. So I think we're all kind of hoping spring will bring something to the market that's going to be positive.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel you, man. And you know, and that's what I mean, dude, I've been talking about what we're experiencing right now for like the last year, right? Like I had said post Labor Day is when things are going to start to change.
Yep.
And things are changing out there. I just don't think like um the cataclysmic rise and fall that people had experienced, it's not going to happen. It's going to be, you know, I don't know about what Q4 of this year has yet to be seen, right? About it. I don't know if I don't know if I'll go as far. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong by saying it's a muted peak season by any stretch of the imagination. You just never know, right?
Yeah.
And I think that you're very much in line because like what I really think is going to happen is there'll be like a bump here in Q4 for peak holiday season, and then it'll drop off and it'll be a prototypical Q1. And then Q2 is when you're really going to start to see things pop back up into a carrier market, right? And I think that the pendulum's going to swing really hard, like really hard. If you haven't been doing right by carriers, you're going to have a very hard time covering freight here, probably in the next 6 to 7 months.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. Sure. I think the highs are going to be higher and the lows are going to be lower going forward.
What do you mean by that?
I just think that, you know, given what we went through the last 3 years, I think that peak season is going to be a little bit rougher. And I think that, you know, Q1 typically, at least in the produce world, right? Q1 is really slow. The tail end of Q3 is pretty slow. And, you know, we're starting to see a quicker drop off in September than we have typically.
Yeah. So
So
how are you from a pricing perspective, how are you guys attacking this, right? Like is produce very much like rates by the week, by the month, or how do you like what's your pricing strategy when it comes down to a lot of this freight?
So it depends on the customer. We have contracts. We have 3-month contracts, 4-month contracts. We even have 6-month contracts with some customers, as well as just your daily spot. Um, and it's week by week, buddy. I mean, obviously the longer contracts, there's a lot of thought process that goes into that. But week by week right now, it's just keeping your finger on the pulse, making sure that you're understanding what your tender rejections look.
Yeah.
You're taking care of your carriers, your core carriers more than anything. You got to keep the guys fed.
Yeah.
So
No.
there's not really a true strategy outside of just, you know, communication with our customers too. You know, customers, they've got a P&L too. And, you know, we've all got to work together to make sure that their freight gets there, but we've got to get there at the right price point for them.
I think, you know, because like a lot of, I have one shipper that we're working with that we filled out, you know, that we got awarded some RFP freight for. But for the most part, a lot of my customers are same day spot market opportunities right now, right? As I'm sure a lot of people are, you know, when you're onboarding shippers, that's the style of pricing that you're actually afforded early on. And for me, it's just like, man, because again, like, dude, like literally before we started recording, and that's how I started the show. I was literally in the middle of finalizing a shipment um, out there. And, again, it's just like, it's crazy how the market can fluctuate in any freight type, but especially right now. And I think that, having the most accurate real-time pricing is so crucial. And it's like, and especially if you're like, I look at it like this. If you don't have extensive experience, if you're listening to what Cody's talking about the produce season and everything, you're like, oh shit, I never really thought of it that way. That's, prime example about why we need to like jump in and really build up our book of business. Now, when you have experience out there, like knowing the seasonalities of a lot of the freight kind of go hand in hand the more and more freight that you move out there, because that never really necessarily changes. But I think like right now for me in particular, man, is it's like even in the open deck world, it really does depend on the day. And it's tough to get out there with long-term pricing where there's not a volume commitment that kind of comes along with it right now. And it's like, dude, I know I literally use green screens like multiple times a day, every single day to bid out all the freight. The load that I got awarded prior to the show was one off of the rate from green screens, So it's like having that accurate pricing, having that information at your disposal to be able to look through these things and really get good at, I don't want to call it like rolling the dice, but like the predictive side of things really come into play here. So like obviously what Cody and I are talking about right now through the holiday season, rates are going to start to increase. So if you're out there looking for a pricing strategy with your customers and you are, you're going to have to go back on a higher price, you need to have some substance behind it. You can't just say, hey, last week it was $4,000. Now I need 4,500. You need to be able to talk about the seasonality of things. If you're moving freight out of Idaho right now for a reefer, you need to be able to talk to them about that. They're aware of it. But again, that's what helps you separate yourself as somebody who brings a lot of these market changes to the customer and with substance behind it, as opposed to just, I need more money.
Yeah, 100%. And I'll give a shameless plug to our TMS, which is Tide TMS, but being able to pull all of that historical data for the last couple of years to see those trends, within 30 seconds it's crucial. DAT, green screens, they're great tools. Obviously, they play a part in it, but you also have to look at your historical data so you can see, at least percentage-wise, right? Like if it's going to go up 10%, it's going to historically go up 15% or whatever that is based off of what your current price is. You need budget for that. You need to understand that. So
yeah, I'm right there with you, man. Do you think too many people put an emphasis on a piece of technology, because obviously like fraud, all that shit it's like there's such an emphasis on that, like solving all your problems. And technology is great. I'm a massive proponent of technology, but what you're describing right there about your own internal data, and your ability to kind of like see the market for what it is. I don't know if they'll ever be able to be an algorithm to that, right? Just like the carriers that I work with that only run Phoenix to Albuquerque nonstop, right? Like for some reason, they're always way more accurate on their rates and everything. But again, it's that historical aspect of it. It's about working inside of that network to see where these trends are in the past. Because like, again, man, none of this stuff should be of any surprise to anybody who's been around this industry for a while. It's the same events every single year. And if you're newer in the industry and you're listening to this, what I really mean is that a lot of the things that you're experiencing right now, you're going to experience next year and the year after that and the year after that. It's normal.
Yep. 100%. Most freight is seasonal, right? It may not be as seasonal as building materials during springtime and produce twice a year, right? But you're always going to be able to see trends. There's always trends in the market. And I think that's the most important thing, is understanding the trends so that you can at least not get caught completely with your pants down. But to my point earlier, I do think that the highs will be a little bit higher and the lows will be a little bit lower just going forward, because it just seems like the last year we've seen that, right? Like,
yeah,
it tanked hard fast last year. A lot of people were kind of taken by surprise at how quickly the market shifted. And I don't see that changing because behaviors are behaviors. It is what it is. But yeah, I mean, staying on top of it and just, make sure you're doing that you're looking at your quarterly data versus the same time period last year. What were the variables? What was different? All that sort of stuff is going to help you be able to go into your next quarter and price things a lot better.
Yeah, no, I got you, man. I want to talk about this one article here. This one was from FreightWaves that came out last Saturday, and it's about refrigerated truckload tender rejection rates spike temporarily, but are telling. And so it goes on to say that refrigerated truckload rejection rates jumped 4% at the end of July and over 10% in front of the Labor Day holiday, the highest value since May of 2022. Late summer harvest season and blistering temperatures across the central United States are likely the main culprits. But this is a sign that the truckload market is this a sign that it's starting to transition into a tighter state? Domestic truckload has been in a state of dramatic oversupply since early 2022. Refrigerated freight represents 15 to 20% of the total domestic contract market. Dry van, roughly 70%. The lower volume tends to make the rejections much more volatile. Also, a move at a higher level than its van counterpart. The narrow gap with the dry van rejection rates from March through May was extremely unusual, but very telling of just how oversupplied the refrigerated market is. Do you get that, man? Do you get that feeling out there right now that tender rejections are up? Are you seeing more spot market opportunities come out with your contracted customers?
No. I mean, regionally, there were definitely some weeks that we did. 4th of July week was, we did see quite a bit more spot opportunity. I think the produce season this year did get off to a later start because of all that flooding that the Salinas Valley had this year. So that first cut over there, all your leafy greens and all that stuff, was definitely a lot smaller than last year. But they were able to make it up on that second cut, which is going to hit, July-ish, June, July.
Yeah. So
we did see that for a brief time period. August was actually a little bit tighter than a normal August.
Okay.
So, but that was volume wise. It was definitely volume was up. So that was a good thing for everybody. We are starting to see it taper down though.
Okay. So with a lot of, do you see, because it goes on in this article, it talks about refrigerated operations favor smaller fleets. Small operators are most exposed to a loose truckload market. A lack of buying power on cost drivers like equipment and fuel paired with diminishing load options tend to push them into leasing on. From this logic, we would expect that the refrigerated sector to show signs of tightening or directional shift earlier than the large carrier-centric dry van space. The increasing sensitivity to disruption is a sign that capacity exits are starting and have an impact on the market. And then another factor that is likely helping drive rejection rates higher is falling contracted rates. Long-term rates have dropped 12% out there. And then it goes on to say that the aggregate market is still very loose. The reefer sector likely to soften after the seasonal period passes, but refrigerated capacity is showing early signs of tightening, which could be a leading indicator for more things to come for all of trucking. So with the RFPs and stuff that you guys are out there, like what are those? I mean, you don't have to say, you don't have to fucking expose everything. But like, I think from that, do you see that there's more of a emphasis on driving costs down with your conversations that you're having, or is it more like, hey, let's try and keep it this for the next 6 months?
Yeah, flat's kind of the name of the game right now. None of the big major shippers want to put anybody out of business either, because it's only going to affect them negatively in the long run. So most of the conversations we've had have just been, let's hold rates, see what we can do through Q4. Everyone's anticipating spikes during those 2 holiday seasons, but everybody's kind of just thinking that flat is the way to go, because I don't think it could get much lower on the reefer side. Dry van's a completely different story, because dry van makes up 75% of the market.
70% it says.
Yeah, percent. So that's a little bit different. Reefers are very targeted. They're also a hell of a lot more expensive too, right? I mean, you're talking at least 40-45 grand a trailer more just for the reefer unit and the insulation and everything. So
I'm going to be honest. I'm kind of shocked that reefer is only 15 to 20% of the overall freight market.
It's crazy, huh? And then produce is only like, I think 2 or 3% of the overall market. So it's
that's nuts. to me, like when you're looking at a lot of this stuff too, because like I knew that obviously anything in comparison to drive-in, but I thought it was more like drive-in was like 55, 60%, and then reefer and like open deck were kind of a complete split between that. But it's like it's crazy when you look at it from that perspective that like 10% of the market roughly is open deck freight.
Yeah.
That's wild, man.
Yeah, that is wild. I would not have thought that, to be honest with you.
There's still a lot of opportunity that's out there. But I think like, you know, to your point there though, about reefer being what it is, and then produce especially only being about 2%, 3% of the overall refrigerated food market. Like again, to me, it's just another talking point, Cody, on why you don't. I mean, because okay, the brokerage market I think was like $200 billion last year. So again, I did go to public schools, so I do apologize if my math is off, but that's still a lot of money that we're looking at for somebody who just wants to do produce, right?
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
that, yeah, man, it's insane to me, you know? And it's like when you look at a lot of the operations that are out there too, if you look at because I think Kevin Hill posted something yesterday about this, that like out of the 200 billion, the top 100 control 40% of the market in brokerage or something like that. And
Yeah,
again,
it's 80%, right? 80% of the market, the top 20 brokers or something like that.
is that what it was?
Yeah, it was. You're talking. Is it Freight Caviar?
Was it Freight? I forget who posted. I thought it was Kevin Hill who posted it, but they were talking about that. But again, like all I see anytime I see those stats is the market is ripe for opportunity for it, for anybody, right?
Absolutely. There's more freight out there than any of us can honestly handle. I mean, if you look at CHR, I think they're 20 or 21 billion, I think was their forecast for this year.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, that's only 10% of the entire market, and they're larger than the next two brokers combined, right?
Yeah. And that's what's crazy, Cody, when you think about it too, because you're like, and again, I'm not knocking on CH Robinson at all. Like for as large as they are, outside of some of the Supreme Court cases, you really don't hear much about them at all. And frankly, you're not number one because you're bad. Like that's also nothing to take into consideration. But they've been stagnant at that 15 mark for a long time, right? And you almost got to ask yourself, have they hit their mark? Like, have they hit their ceiling? And they're not really going to grow any larger on top of that. And then you got to ask yourself, why? Why is that? Maybe for the smaller companies that are out there, people want that human to human interaction. They want to talk to the Codys and the Chris's of the world as opposed to a 1-800 number.
Yeah, 100%. When I was on the shipper side for 12 years, right? And the biggest thing for us is we didn't want to feel like a number, right? Like we wanted to know who we were working with. And your small to mid-level size brokers, there's always a personal touch that you don't quite get from the big box guys. And no offense to them, but
yeah, it's
just true.
But and then it's also to think, you know, because like I don't have the data in front of me, but if you look at the overall freight market, how much of that is not a Fortune 100, 200, or 500 company, right? How much of that out there is that small to mid-size mom and pop style shipper that, you know what, they just want somebody to give a shit about their business.
Yep.
And when you can deliver that, and then you can deliver all the technology that you guys have inside of your operation to make their lives easier, that's how you become the opposite end of the sales rejection of we're good with our current network, right?
Yep.
And you got to stick with them. You got to work with them through the ups and the downs. You got to work with these customers through this stuff, you know, especially when you're seeing unbalanced demand and tender rejections rising and everything else, because, you know, frankly, what happens a lot around this time when the markets do shift is a lot of the smaller shippers get left to the wayside because they don't have the volume and they don't have the money associated with them, where the larger providers go to the large brands and they get all the volume, they get all the money, and that's where they chase after. And then in a couple of months, when things calm down, they're like, then they'll come back and be like, hey, remember how we love you? Be that reason, take advantage of this next, I think, 6 months. And you're going to capture a lot of market share from your competition. If you don't chase the, you know, I don't know how to, I'm trying to think of the best way to put this. If you don't go and chase the shiny ball and you stick out with your current customer base, those that you've been servicing, it's going to pay off a lot more now than I think in years past because of how volatile everything's been.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hopefully nobody has a short-term memory, right? Because, we all went through COVID together. Not a fun experience for anybody. And, to your point, take care of your customers. Some of them are our most loyal customers in the 20 years we've been a brokerage are your 2 to 5 loads a week guys. And,
Yeah.
and wonderful. They're great to work with. You actually have conversations with them. They want your expertise on where the market's heading. They're not pulling all this data from every source that they can and trying to dictate to you. You should be an extension of them, right? That's the whole point. Be a partner.
Yeah. Dude, I'm right there with you, man. I think that now more than ever there's such an ample opportunity for you to get in there and separate yourself and really drive home that value to your customers more than ever right now. And you got to take advantage of it, right? You really do. And not take advantage of it in the literal sense, but like you got to capitalize on this opportunity because I think that opportunities like this are few and far between in business entirely.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I had an in-person meeting with one of our larger customers over the weekend in Texas. And, on the golf course, he told me that his inbox has at least 1,500 carriers and brokers that are just waiting to get set up with him.
Damn.
And, they're a $20 billion company. They're a big dog. They're a whale. But, that's what you're up against. But, if you find your shippers that are the mid-level shippers that do have those 2, 5, maybe 10 loads a week, their inbox probably isn't as full because they're not as well known. And everybody and their neighbor chases the whales, right? Because it's easy to come in and they're the brands that they're the brands that you buy, they're the places you shop at. That's probably going to be the first people that you try to call when you are a new broker. But yeah, those mid-level guys, those are some of the best customers that you can have, and they're the best long-term customers you can get.
I love it, man. Well, hey, dude, as always, I appreciate your time, Cody. Thanks for jumping on and bringing us up to speed in the reefer market and everything else. And as always, you guys, if you guys got value in what you heard here today, subscribe to the show, you guys. Get it out there, share it out there to your network because that's how we grow. That's how we're the top transportation show out there is because of each and every one of you. And if you see value, your network's going to see value in it as well. We'll be back tomorrow, 8:30 in Pacific, 10:30 Central. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon. We're just waiting for it to end.